said, I mean, this could upset the religious community and all this other. I mean, some of this stuff just left unknown, And I said, no, it's not. The government has no right to decide what I can and cannot understand or handle or see.
This is Representative Tim Burchett on a recent Joe Rogan podcast, and he's discussing what he has experienced in the disclosure of UFOs. Burchett's unwavering commitment to have all this made public and knowledge for everyone should be commended, and hopefully we will get some answers very soon.
So, do you know what is going to be released? So supposedly this is the week of some kind of disclosure. Can you give us any insight as to what's going on?
Oddly enough, I got a call that tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I'm going to be briefed over the phone by, I think one of Hegseth's top dogs is going to go over some stuff with me that they've got. And I have no earthly idea. I don't want everybody to get their hopes up. I don't have a lot of faith in our government. President Trump's always been great to me. He's never lied to me, but I don't know that he knows the right questions to ask and the right people to talk to, because, this thing's been covered up at least since 1947, and I just don't think they don't give up that easy. The war pimps at the Pentagon and everybody else, they just don't give up that easy.
How did you come to understand all this stuff? Like, what was your understanding of it before you got into government?
I had pretty cool parents. Right now they would, Daddy was an old World War II Marine, and Mama flew an airplane during the Second World War. They were, They were badasses. They were good Christian people, but my daddy was a stone cold killer. He was the real deal. He was on Peleliu and Okinawa in the Marine Corps. And of course, Mama's oldest brother, Roy, got killed fighting the Nazis. And Mama did her part. Just a little country girl, didn't have electricity till she's a senior in high school. So I've kind of lived the American dream, but they would let me, they'd let me get bloodied up, and then they would patch me up and let me go. I could ride my bike to the library, or the library if you're from East Tennessee. And it was, about a mile from the house, and they'd go in there and they have these books set up, and they had all this stuff on, all this wild stuff. And there was a book on UFOs, and I just picked it up and started reading it. I probably wasn't, 7 or 8 years old. And I just always followed it, the magazine articles, and I'd go out at night and hope to see a UFO. Never did, never have, until some of the briefings I've been in.
Tim Burchett is a Republican U.S. Congressman from Tennessee. He represents Tennessee's 2nd Congressional District and has served since January 3. Before Congress, he served for 8 years as mayor of Knox County, and prior to that, he spent about 16 years in the state legislature. He serves as the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform and the House Foreign Affairs Committee. But here is the kicker. This is the good part. He is also known for his outspoken interest in UFO and UAP transparency, having pushed for more government disclosure on this topic.
And then I'm walking down the street, and can I mention another news source? Is that okay? Yeah. I was walking down the street, and TMZ there was a guy there, this black fella, his name's Colin. He's a buddy of mine. He doesn't work for them anymore, but he was filming, and he said, "Hey, Congressman," he said, "you want to make a comment on the UFO thing?" He couldn't get anybody to comment. And I said, "Well, sure." I said, they're going to tell you they're going to issue you a report, and it's going to be loaded, and everybody's freaking out. It's going to be the greatest thing. It's going to be total disclosure. And then they're going to put something out. It'll look like somebody shot it with a dadgum 12 gauge. It's just going to have holes in it. It's all redacted. And I said, and they're not going to put it out this week. It'll be weeks later. And that's exactly what they did. They had a report I felt like had some information in that was new to the public, and they did what they always do. They hid it, covered it up, and then everybody saw that interview. And I said on it, that's the
one we were talking about, bases in the ocean.
No. That's a different one. As it is just totally different. And this is just out on the street corner. And then I started getting calls from people literally all over the world. I've talked to legislators in Russia over this issue, and then people stop me on street corners and say, "Hey, man, I really appreciate you going for disclosure." I have doctors tell me this. I have lawyers, engineers. I have military people that have seen things that they can't describe. I've had members of Congress. There's a few bullies in Congress. They'll make fun of me and say smart aleck stuff, but put it out there to your people. It's over 55% of the American population feels like we're not alone. I mean, seriously, you go out there and look at those every night. My dogs, they got to take a leak. They never want to take a leak at like 9 o'clock. It's always 3 o'clock in the morning. I look at those dadgum stars, man, and the light from those stars left there before the time of Christ. And the light from some of those stars, the stars have already combusted. I mean, they're not even there anymore. Light years to us is something that's hard to understand. And we are just, one grain of sand on a billion beaches. And I still don't think we're the best that God can do. I just can't imagine we're his shining, we're the one they put on the mantle. Oh, look, he made humans. Well, we've kind of screwed things up. So I read my Bible, and a lot of the Christian folks knock me. They talk about it's demons. And I say, well, I'm good with Jesus. I'm not worrying about demons. I'm not going to worry about that. I don't think they're demons. Why would they? They don't have to fly around in some craft to right. It's just, to me, it's hard to imagine. But the underwater thing was, I was getting briefed by it was a former admiral came into my office. And Joe, it was a very friendly conversation. And I'm always a little couched I hold back a little bit because I think there's a psyop going on with some of these departments. I was briefed by one of our alphabet agencies not long ago, and the final thing was somebody said, well, why don't we got more information? He says, we just don't have the funding for that, Congressman. And, and I know they're reading the polling data, and they're saying, well, let's shake loose the money tree for us. And that's part of it too. And I warn people about that. But I guess in a nutshell, that's pretty much it.
As Burchett made some references to his studying of the Bible and what he believes, we must also understand, if you are a Christian and if you do believe in God's word, that it is very hard to understand these things and how they did come about in biblical terms. Until we can get some more information and more disclosure from the government, we're never going to be able to tie in this whole thing, how it fits biblically.
So when you first got in, how long have you been in government for?
Well, 8 years in Congress. I was in our state legislature in Tennessee 16 years, and then I was county mayor for 8 years.
So was it when you got into Congress that you first started getting inside information about what's going on?
Yeah.
So that was that 8 years ago, or like when was that?
It's probably 6 years ago, 5 or 6. No, let's see. It was during Trump's first administration, so it would have been about 8 years ago.
And do you remember what it was? Do you remember how you were introduced to it?
Yeah. We just raised total hell about it. And then
why?
Because it's a cover-up. Nobody would give us information.
Well, what made you think it was a cover-up? Why did you think that there was information?
I guess I just don't trust the government. I've been in government most of my life, and I just don't trust it. I
understand that, but was there something that led you to want to pursue this particular subject?
No, just it kind of pursued me. After I did that TMZ interview, people started calling me, and then people would I would get phone calls from people.
Right, but the TMZ interview was fairly recently, right?
No.
No, it wasn't?
That was one that was what started it all. It was 7 or 8 years ago. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't explain that very well.
But you had an interest from the time you were a child, and then getting into government. What was like the first introduction where you had an idea that there's something going on?
When I started asking questions, and we just get to run around.
Like what kind of questions?
Like, what is this? Where are you seeing these things? And we would get people. I had an interesting meeting in my office with some people that were nationally known, and they came by to see me, and they just wanted to talk to me about it. And I was, and they started telling me things, and then I had a group come to my house. I said, y'all just come by the office in D.C. and we'll talk. I said, we don't feel comfortable doing that. And they came by the house and they said, can we hook up to your television? And I said, well, sure. And they hooked up the computer to it, and they were showing me objects that were flying and granted, I'm not an astrophysicist by any stretch of imagination, but they were showing me things that were flying at speeds that were just that nothing compares. And the angles that they were taking would literally, and I've said this before, and it grosses people out, but it would turn you or me into a ketchup package. I mean, you go this way, and then boom, you're going this way, and we have no capability of any of it. And now I've been briefed so many times and different groups. We scrub missions because these things are out there. And then we tell everybody that's involved to keep your mouth shut. And then if you're a pilot and you come back and say, hey, I've seen this, you immediately pulled off the flight line. I'm not a pilot or military person, but flight line is what I call it. They're not able to fly, and they're given a psych evaluation. And they're given an 8-hour, they call it a debriefing. I've been told by some of the officers that have been involved, it's really just an interrogation. And then you got that hanging on your record. And,
so it influences them to stop asking
they just keep their mouth shut. I literally had a guy tell me, Joe, that he said his recorder, it was an older style plane, and I think he said it was close to his right knee. And when he got that on his recorder, he started smashing it with his right knee to discombobulate it, so that it wasn't even, because he didn't want anything. He did not need it. He saw it. He didn't need it on his record. Even if he saw it and it was on a dadgum tape, they drag you in. And so, myself, Luna, and Matt Gates went down to Florida to be briefed by. Matt was told that some pilots had seen some things and they had some photographs.
Something doesn't feel right all about this. Why would the military pilots be told not to say anything? And if they did, they were questioned about what they saw and kind of just shunned. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, they're definitely hiding something, or they're not wanting to disclose for whatever reason. It just doesn't make any sense. Let's just hope that Ted can really drive this home and bring us some answers.
We go down there, and again, we go in. I told Matt, I said, Matt, they don't give up this stuff easy. We're going to go down there, and I have a bad feeling they're going to turn us out. Well, we went down there, and Joe, they briefed us on some very serious issues that they were dealing with the Chinese and communist infiltration and things going on around Florida in the ocean. But they did never have they wouldn't bring the pilots in. And Matt said, hey, I understand all this, but this is not why we came down here. And Matt's, you can say what you want to about Matt Gates, but he's a great orator and he's a great attorney. And he just started flailing on them. And he told them, he said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to jerk me around. And I said, I'm going to subpoena you all. We're going to call you all back to Washington. And I remember looking over in the corner at the suits, and I said, I called them spooks because they were obviously some sort of military intelligence or CIA. And I leaned over to Matt and I said, the spooks are getting nervous, brother, because they were kind of shifting around. And they shut us down. They said, no, we're not going to do it. And Matt said, I'm calling whoever Big Air Force was. Matt was on one of the military committees, and he called. And hour later, they stuck us up in this room and had microphones under the desk. I remember Luna reached under and unplugged them. And they had a nice fruit tray that you paid for it, taxpayers. Thank you very much. So I went and ate like a jackass eating sawbriars. I was just eating. I didn't care. And so finally, it came back in an hour, and the guy says, I don't know who you all called, but you're going to get your briefing. They're bringing the pilots in. And literally, they brought these pilots in, and they were in their flight gear, and they had just come out of the planes, and they were the ones. And they described things, and it's been reported now. It's been reported in public, but it was these craft that were hovering for extended periods of times and could shoot straight up at incredible speeds that we don't have capabilities of doing. And those are the kind of thing. And two, this was military people. These were top people. These are like the equivalent, not, they just some of our top people. And I know folks are going to say, well, it's probably the Russians. Well, if it's the Russians, dadgummit, they wouldn't be tied up down in Ukraine for how many years? And Putin's such an egomaniac, he'd fly a saucer to Pennsylvania Avenue, get out and probably wrestle Trump in the front yard or something, bare-chested, ride a unicorn or something. I don't know. If it's China, they'd own us even more than they already do. And then people say, well, it's ours, Burchett. It's just ours. They don't want to release it. Well, think about this. President Trump, and he should have, and I give him great credit for that pilot that got knocked down over in Iran, we spent untold millions of dollars to bring that cat home, and we should have, because it sends a message to our enemies and it sends a message to our fighting men and women that we're not going to leave you behind, as many presidents have done many times. There's no way on God's green earth that they would risk a $500 million aircraft with something flying around it and risk those guys' life and all that training to put these guys in harm's way. And that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, these things are buzzing cockpits. I mean, it's not an everyday occurrence. It's in certain areas. And that's where the deep water thing comes in, the deep water bases. I was sort of misquoted. I was just telling what I was told. And, but it makes a lot of sense that these deep water areas are where we see a lot of sightings. And we've seen craft underwater that do something over 200 miles an hour that are on the sonar pickup are as big as a dadgum football field. And the best we don't have anything big as a football field, maybe in length, but not underwater anyway. And, the best we can do is maybe upper 30 mile an hour, maybe something like that. I don't know. But 200 miles an hour, that's just out of the question. And these things don't have a heat signature. And I hope though that they release some of the footage that we've seen and some that we haven't, that we've been rumored that's out there. What I'm afraid though, it's going to get so sanitized and it's going to get cleaned up. I mean, even Obama, he said, yeah, there are aliens out there. And then in a recent interview I saw just last week or so, he's backed up on that. Oh, I was just kidding.
Yeah. And I saw Trump when he was getting interviewed. He said Obama shouldn't have said that because it's classified. He goes, but I might release it. I might make it unclassified.
And I hope he does. And I told him that. I talked to the president about it, and I said, Mr. President, it's like layers of an onion. You just keep peeling it back. And I hope he does, because
he might be the only one that would ever
only
do
one
it.
with enough guts.
Yeah.
Only one, because he's not beholden to that bunch. All they've done is try to bury him.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So when these men came to you and they hooked up the computer to your television and showed you, did they tell you why they wanted you to see this stuff?
They just thought I should know about it because I was asking the right questions. And then shortly after that, I was go ahead.
I'm sorry. Were you told that you were not supposed to tell people about this? Were you?
No, but it's interesting. I had that deep throat moment, not the porn version,
right.
the Richard Nixon moment, where I was walking in the tunnel one day and a person came up to me, and it's always a friend. It's always a friend that does this, and said, it was just the strangest conversation, and I'll never forget it, because he said, Burchett, he said, you're really pushing on this UFO thing. And I go, yeah, I am. He said, do you really think we need to do this? And I just kept listening. When I was a young man, I'd have run my mouth and said, oh, shut up. But I listened to what he said. He said, I mean, this could upset the religious community and all this other. I mean, some of this stuff just left unknown. And I said, no, it's not. The government has no right to decide what I can and cannot understand or handle or see. And to me, and every time, Joe, let me tell you what they're going to do. I had a 2-page bill for disclosure, and Chuck Schumer had one that was 60 pages, I believe. And he modeled his after the Kennedy assassination committee release, which we're over 60 years into that, and we still they haven't released everything that on President Kennedy getting shot. And that's what they wanted to model this dadgum thing after. Mine was 2 pages long. Of course, mine didn't get anywhere. I was told by a member of leadership, they come and sit with me. I call it center's row. I sit on the back row, second from the back on the aisle. Everybody gets in trouble. They come sit with me sometimes. And I was told by a member of leadership that that the intelligence community was unhappy with what I was doing. And then I got a phone call from a former member of President Trump's staff who told me that I needed to, I forget his exact terminology, but he said, you need to get some bodies around you. And so, and I don't know what that means. I mean, I'm the 435th most powerful member of Congress, Joe. So, they bump me off, and it's going to be like there'll be one tear shed on the House floor. That'll be because I owed somebody $10. I didn't pay them back, and then they'll move on to the next guy. So,
well, I'm sure you're aware of this narrative about the missing scientists and scientists that have turned up dead and been killed.
100%. And that's real. I think I have a theory on that. All right, and I know it's a little dangerous to throw these things out, but. And I was on maybe Fox one time, and I just came up with this. I say your family's mobbed up, okay, and y'all own a nice Italian restaurant, and it's world renowned, and you're busting at the seams, and you're franchising and putting out cookbooks and everything. You got this one chef who's the kingpin of all of it, but you're afraid he's talking to your competitors. Now, you don't bump him off. What you do is you rough up a few of the busboys. And that sends a quick dadgum message that you need to shut your mouth. And timing is everything, and nothing happens by accident in Washington, D.C. To me, I think the timing is uncanny. You got a president, we've had these hearings in Washington. You have a president that says he's going to release stuff. And all in that same time frame, before and after that, you're having some of these high-ranking officials disappear. And to me, nobody disappears in this country unless they want to disappear. There's cameras everywhere. And to me, it's just, it reeks of a deep state sewer.